Ever open your bank account and wonder where all your money went? Yeah, me too. Hi, I'm Dave, and I'm terrible with money, but I'm trying to fix it. For a long time, I kept telling myself I wasn't that bad with money. I don't buy luxury watches. I don't drive an expensive car. I'm not out here casually shopping for yachts or whatever rich people do when they get bored. On paper, I didn't look like a big spender, and yet somehow I was still always low on money. That was the weird part. I didn't feel reckless. I just felt constantly behind. So I started looking closer at where my money actually goes. And that's when I found 5 money traps that were quietly wrecking me. The frustrating part is that none of these traps look dramatic on their own. That's why they work. They hide inside normal life. Tiny charges, easy habits. I deserve this purchases. Automatic renewals, one-click decisions. I kept waiting to find one giant financial disaster, but what I actually found was much more annoying. A bunch of small systems draining money in the background while I blamed my paycheck. And honestly, that was a hard thing to admit because blaming your income is way more comfortable than admitting your habits are quietly working against you. Trap number 1, subscriptions. This one offended me personally because every single subscription looked harmless by itself. Netflix, Spotify, some random app I downloaded during one productive week and never touched again. Cloud storage I forgot I was paying for. It's only $8.99. It's only $5. It's only $12.99. That's what I kept telling myself. And individually, sure, none of them looked dangerous. Together, completely different story. You don't wake up and proudly decide to spend $80 on apps and streaming services you barely use. It just happens quietly, automatically, politely, every month. And because nothing dramatic happens in the moment, you don't feel the pain. You just feel vaguely broke later and somehow still surprised. That's what got me. Not one big charge. A pile of invisible little permissions I forgot I had given away. Meanwhile, my fridge looked like this, which is not ideal when your streaming services are eating better than you are. Trap number 2, delivery food. This one got me way too many times. Right? You open the app, see an $18 meal and think, okay, that's not great, but it's manageable. Then you hit checkout and somehow it becomes $27. Wait, how did this become 27? Oh, right. Service fee, delivery fee, tip. Sometimes a mysterious extra charge that feels like punishment for being hungry and tired at the same time. Delivery is dangerous because the first number is almost never the real number. And the worst part is that delivery doesn't just cost money. It hides the cost behind convenience. You're not thinking, I am choosing the expensive option. You're thinking, I'm busy, I'm tired, this is easier. And that's how it gets you. Not with logic, with friction removal. When spending becomes easy enough, your brain stops treating it like spending and starts treating it like a solution. That was a huge realization for me because I wasn't paying extra for food. I was paying extra to avoid effort. Trap number 3, impulse shopping. This one is embarrassing because sometimes a package would show up at my door and I would genuinely think, I don't even remember ordering this. That is not a sentence a financially stable person should say out loud. But that's what algorithms do. They study your weakness like it's a full-time job. They know when to show you the ad, how to frame the deal, what color button makes you click faster, and exactly how to make random nonsense look like a personal breakthrough. Impulse shopping almost never feels irresponsible in the moment. That's why it works. It feels fun, useful, weirdly deserved. You had a long day. You're treating yourself. You saw a deal. You're being efficient. The story changes every time, but the ending is usually the same. One more thing in your house, one less chunk of money in your account. And once something becomes normal that fast, it's really hard to defend the fantasy that it was worth all that urgency. You start making a little more money, and suddenly your habits start upgrading themselves. The cheap phone becomes a new iPhone. The simple routine becomes the more expensive version of everything. Better coffee, better takeout, better subscriptions, better little rewards. Your income goes up, but so does the cost of being you. And that was a real self-realization moment for me, because I always thought more income would automatically make me feel more secure. But sometimes more income just gives your spending new clothes. You don't feel richer, you just develop more expensive defaults. That hit me hard. I wasn't only dealing with random bad decisions, I was dealing with a system where every financial improvement immediately created a new excuse to spend more, which is honestly one of the most frustrating loops I've ever noticed in myself. Trap number 5, credit cards. This thing makes spending painless. And that's exactly the problem. Cash feels real. Debit feels real enough. Credit feels like a delayed emotional consequence. You tap, you move on, and your brain barely reacts. That's why credit cards are so dangerous when your system is already messy. They smooth out the pain of spending in the moment, then send you the pain later with interest. And that interest is not subtle. What really messed with me was realizing how these traps work together. Subscriptions make your baseline more expensive. Delivery makes convenience expensive. Impulse shopping makes emotion expensive. Lifestyle inflation upgrades your habits without asking permission. Credit cards make all of it feel less painful until later. None of them have to destroy you on their own. They just have to work together long enough. That's when being broke stops feeling like a random accident and starts looking like a system built out of tiny leaks. But the scary part is that none of these traps require you to be irresponsible in some dramatic movie way. You don't have to ruin your life in one giant decision. You just have to repeat normal mistakes often enough. A few subscriptions, a little delivery, some impulse shopping, a small lifestyle upgrade, credit card spending that doesn't feel painful until later. That's how people stay broke without ever feeling like they did anything extreme. And honestly, that was the part that felt most like me. I kept thinking my problem was income, that if I just made a little more money, everything would finally calm down. But the more I looked at my habits, the less convincing that story became, because extra money doesn't fix a broken system. It just gives a broken system more money to leak. That was a deeply annoying realization, mostly because it meant I could no longer blame everything on my paycheck. I had to admit that some of my financial stress was self-built, one small habit at a time. Most people don't have an income problem. They have a system problem. That doesn't mean income doesn't matter. Obviously it does. But if your money keeps disappearing through the same traps every month, more income alone won't save you. You'll just lose more through a slightly upgraded version of the same habits. The system has to change, or the result usually doesn't. And that idea sounds simple, but when it hits you personally, it changes how you see every daily choice. So now I'm trying to fix the leaks one by one. Cancel what I don't use, order less delivery. Slow down impulse buying. Watch lifestyle creep before it pretends to be success. Treat credit like real money, because eventually it becomes painfully real. None of that is glamorous, but neither is always wondering where your paycheck went. And I'd rather deal with a boring system now than keep living inside an expensive mystery every month. If this sounded a little too familiar, subscribe and hit like. I'll see you in the next one.